I'm doing the Rotary playing.
Okay, Maksym is entering now as well, our speaker.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And Borys will join us very shortly.
In the kitchen. Oh, there's the
Hello, this is Sister Marie
Someone else,
from
Deutschland.
Fraternity
Yeah, I hear the
Notre Dame.
cuckoo clock.
Okay, it is now
Hi,
12
Gerard.
o'clock in New York. Today is March 3rd, 2022. We have, in honor of the occasion, changed our logo, the Rotary Club of New York's logo, from the traditional colors of blue, white, and orange to the color of Ukraine, in solidarity with the people and the friends in Ukraine. So I welcome everybody who is able to join us today. We're very much delighted to have you all here, and Audrey will lead us in a song of peace. Audrey, go right ahead.
One, two, three.
Can you hear it okay?
You hear me?
Okay. You hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Got muted.
Thank you very much, Audrey. Once again, I welcome everyone to the Rotary Club of New York's meeting on March 3rd, 2022. It is with absolute delight that I'm able to confirm that we have just about 90 attendees on this most meaningful presentation here today. It is with also the utmost pleasure that I introduce to you our President, Judge Gerard Triffin.
Thank you, Andreas, and good afternoon, everyone. Well, good afternoon here in New York. I know we have a lot of guests from around the world, and this is absolutely appropriate. This is a very solemn moment for all of us, and we're very honored today to have as our guests, live from Ukraine, Borys Bodnar and Maksym Kolyba. Maksym is the Deputy Director of Administrative Affairs and Development for the International Institute for Ethics and Contemporary Issues, and he is I believe he's in Lviv, and he's a senior lecturer at the ICU Law School in Lviv. He has a PhD in international law. He's has a master's in international law, and he's the organizer and coordinator of conferences, seminars on integral human development and Catholic social teaching. He is with us. We're waiting for Borys Bodnar, who just let us know that he is trying to get through the barricades. As we know, he's in Kyiv, and Kyiv is under constant physical bombardment from Russia. He is from the Rotary Club. He's representing the Rotary Club Ukraine Unity. And this was registered on June 2020 as only the 4th Rotary Passport Club in Europe. They started with 34 charter members, and it's the passport club for Rotary District 2232, representing Ukraine and Belarus. So without further ado, we're going to change this a little bit today. Instead of having a formal presentation followed by questions and answers, we're going to open this up as more of a dialogue, since I know that every one of us is, we're worried, we're interested, we want to know exactly what's happening from the front. So Maksym, are you with us?
Yes, good evening. Here is good evening. Yeah.
Good evening. And Borys, are you with us yet? All right, hopefully Borys will be able to join us then. So Maksym, добрий день, Нью-Йорка.
Дякую, добрий день. Thanks.
Нехай Бог благословить вас і Україні.
Thank you very much. Дякую. You hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
So maybe briefly, I can just show you something like presentation, if you maybe co-host several pages, okay, just to show you what is happening now here in Ukraine.
Evo, kliknuo sam i stoji mikrofon mute. Kad ga kliknem. A kad je...
Unmute.
Whenever you're ready, Maksym.
Can I?
Yes, we hear you and see you perfectly. Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Yeah, but please make me like co-host for share screening.
Yes.
Yes.
I have to show you this video. Okay, thanks. Now. Okay, so stop. I will talk about this Russian-Ukrainian war. Exactly, it is already happening for 8 years, but this like big war only this week. Oh, sorry, this is video. So the main problem about this war, it's not about the tanks or just soldiers, but about the rockets, because Russian missiles and rockets have hit residential buildings in Kyiv and Kharkiv, Kherson, and many other big cities. Kharkiv and Kyiv. Kyiv has near 4 million people. Kharkiv maybe 1.5 million. So these very big cities, and civilians, including children, are dying since Russian troops do not adhere to the methods and means of warfare set out in international humanitarian law. As a lawyer, as I can say it. Yeah. So here you can see the video. This is the Russian soldier. You can here you will see this on Russian. We will go to the paradise and they will just die. So this is Russian. I don't know how to call this. You can see this terrifying rockets. Yeah, and this is I think Kharkiv. It's not these rockets, but some others, and you can see what is happening with civilians. This is not some military objects. So people are dying, not military people. And today we don't know exact quantity, but near several hundreds of civilian people are dead, thousands are injured. So also we have such a situation very dangerous, because Russians attack very dangerous locations, nuclear power plants. Chernobyl is now under their control, and now in this time, in these minutes, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is attacking. So it's very possible that they could just also put some rockets there, and there will be such a catastrophe that we can imagine. So this, and also there is a petroleum base in Vasilkiv, caught fire, and there were others. So this is very can be very resistible damage for the environment. So about the humanitarian problem, also this is today, yes, it's today a text by Filippo Grandi, yes, he is from the UN, about the 1 million people it is already are already Lviv, because I'm now in the west. Yes, Lviv is west of Ukraine. Here we have just air signals. Yeah, when we know that this may be some air rockets up there, but there weren't. But we have such signals, and we hide everyone where we can. So, and here in Lviv region, we have 40,000 by now refugees from Kyiv, Kharkiv, in eastern Ukraine, and we help them. So yesterday we had here from Kyiv people, and we just like give our flats, apartment here for them to. This is the problem. Also, so because of these military questions, we have here in Ukraine like the army and territorial defense in every region, and the territorial like near city, villages. So and they are fighting not here, but in central Ukraine and eastern Ukraine, and we now really we don't have a problem with our some military, yes, something like a weapon. We don't have this problem, but we have a problem with those who are injured. So we have to have some medical equipment and defense equipment. So we're trying volunteers and our university, Ukrainian Catholic University, we have a different volunteer organization, and we are seeking for such equipment just to put to give them. So because we care about our soldiers and about our people, because we see that Russians don't care about their people, because they have near 9,000 killed already, and they don't take the bodies. We don't know how to, I don't know, how to talk about it. Yeah, so this is like just one of the like table of what we need. This just one, and we always such tables renewed. So we see this like gloves, body armor, ballistic helmet. So this I didn't see. Yeah, this equipment. Yeah, so we always need this because our armor, you know, that our armor is now, as we see, we care about their lives, and we need to provide them. What I want to say my land. Do you hear me? Excuse me, because I
Yes.
see you. Yes. Okay. That just our people. We need to know, and the Western world need to know one that Ukraine and the Western world, we must win the process. So because Russian bear, they always do the same. They always do the same. They fall, then they grow up military, and then they again war. So this.
We lost the feed, I believe. Maybe it's time that we go to Borys for his presentation. Borys, can you hear us well?
Okay.
Borys.
While we're waiting for the feed to come back, I just want to recognize Andreas. Thank you so many Rotarians from around the world who have joined us today. Guilberto Ranieri from Rome, our sister club in Rome, and Mary Lou from Rotary in Toronto, and Thilo von Debschitz in Wiesbaden. And we have a lot of your, Thilo, good to see you, and have a lot of your members from Wiesbaden. Hi to you. Stefan Kuchenmeister in Nuremberg. I don't know if our district governor from District 4230, George McInnes, is here. There are so many people online, I can't see everyone. Rotary Club in Saarbrücken and Deidesheim, Mittelhart. Our friends Rotary Club from San Dismas in California. And who else do we have? Karl Feisenmüger in Mannheim, Germany. Rotaract from Ludwigshafen, Frankenthal in Germany. Stephanie Rodrigo, the Rotary Club of Sri Lanka and Maldives. Our sister club, Rotary Club in Munich, and from France, Lisbon, Portugal, and others. We're very happy we're all here. I think one of the things we wanted to know as Rotarians to connect with Borys Bodnar from Kiel, God forbid, Kyiv, to find out if there's anything that we as Rotarians can do immediately to help the situation. Perhaps some of our brothers and sisters in Germany, I know some of you are doing things. If you want to join in, please do, while we're waiting for our connections to get back, hopefully, with Ukraine. If you want to join in and let us know what some of you in Germany are doing. Thilo, perhaps?
Yes, thanks for having us. So there are a lot of initiatives in Germany from organizations as well as from clubs. So we, as a club, we sent 2 trucks yesterday, and we'll send another time next week, trucks with diapers, flashlights, baby food, everything what's needed. I also made a screenshot during the presentation of the goods which are in need. So we will try to figure out how to get these. So a lot of people are helping, not only to bring goods to the Polish-Ukrainian border, but also we will have many refugees coming from the Ukraine. So we are providing accommodation, and we are figuring out, asking all the Rotary clubs, also the Rotaract clubs, if anyone can provide a bed for one person or for a family. So actually there's a lot which is done over here in Germany, and I'm very happy to see friends from Germany in this meeting. I know that all of them are providing a lot of help.
Thank you, Thilo. That's really very, very great to hear, because
Gerard,
we know, as I'm sorry.
No, I just want to let you know that Boris is in the room, so.
Boris.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about problems.
Добрый день, mój brat. Dobry dzień, mój brat.
Доброго дня. Дуже приємно. So yeah, sorry I was a little bit late getting in. Various problems getting through barricades coming home, and then technical problems connecting. But I'm very, very, very happy indeed to see you all. Thank you for inviting me. Please do continue.
Well, we have to thank you and all of Ukraine for doing what every freedom-loving person must do: protect one's family and fight for one's freedom. We are very, very pleased that you have taken time to meet with Rotarians from all around the world. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about the Rotary Club of Ukraine in Kyiv, and how we as Rotarians from around the world can help. What we can do for you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for the introduction, and again, thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to you. Ukraine is a district that contains approximately 60 Rotary clubs and about 1,200 and 1,300 members, probably 1,400 if you include Rotaract. I'm based in Lviv in Western Ukraine, quite close to the Polish border.
Okay.
A number of cities have multiple clubs. We have 9 clubs in Lviv. There are 10 clubs, I think, in Kyiv. And then Kharkiv, further east, the second city of Ukraine, has, I think, 7 clubs now. And there are clubs in various other centers around Ukraine. My club is fairly new, only about a year and a half old. And we opened a passport club, which I'm sure some, if not all of you, are aware of, which is a slightly different format of Rotary Club, because we saw the need to be more flexible and to allow people to serve in the ways that were suitable for them. But then with coronavirus, I think everybody became a lot more flexible, and formats became by force very, very different. So that's a very brief background. My personal background is I was born in England and spent most of my life there. Worked for about 6 years in Geneva. My speciality is taxation. I worked in banking, investment banking, private banking, etc., running tax departments. And I moved to the Ukraine at the end of 2018, where I've been living ever since. So a very brief background. What is the context of for Rotary in this? I'm not going to explain to you what's happening, because I think it's vividly portrayed all around the world, and I'll say very briefly that from Ukraine out to you, the whole world is providing an incredible support, which I suppose in a way we expect, because we're all trying to create a free world, and there is one unit of this world that we live in that is trying to ruin that for everybody else. So I think the whole world understands that, and that's why we're seeing, an amazing amount of support. The support for Ukraine is critically needed. You can see on a daily basis, and I think I jumped in when there was somebody else, and I can't see him here, but who was explaining about the current situation, which is very critical in certain parts of Ukraine in terms of fighting, bombing, shelling, people, innocent civilians being killed, cities being ruined, to a very different kind of problem which we're facing in this part of Ukraine, where we don't have that hopefully we don't get it, the military onslaught that's being wreaked on the rest of Ukraine and certain parts of Ukraine. But we have a completely different problem, which is the humanitarian problem. And it comes in from two sides. One side is the civilians who are fleeing from the hot zones where the war's really blazing, either to get to some relative safety in Western Ukraine, or to go further and take their children and families across the border to safety. Lviv is a real focal point for that, because it's the city which is the largest city, which is closest to the border of Ukraine with Poland and with other countries slightly further south. And so people are coming through Lviv in their thousands, crossing the border where there have been significant humanitarian problems. And then we're the focal point for aid that's coming in to Ukraine. So here in Lviv, and we're all almost 24 hours a day trying to negotiate aid coming into Ukraine, making sure that wherever it's possible is being distributed to the other parts of Ukraine where it's absolutely needed. And that is a huge challenge. Logistics within Ukraine, if you can imagine trying to get things to, you can see the map here, Kharkiv on the eastern side of Ukraine is the second city. And then slightly just northwest of there, which is actually going through a horrendous onslaught at the moment, is a city called Sumy, which is, I'm just listening to what's happening when I'm in the car on the radio. There's nothing that can get there. No humanitarian aid can get in, and contact's really being lost with what's going on there. So that's the context in general. From a Rotary perspective, we've set up an emergency committee, which consists of two sections. One is trying to deal with and respond to the problems internally within the country, taking in urgent requests from various cities and towns around the country, trying to distribute humanitarian supplies to those places to the extent we possibly can. Excuse me. And the other section is to deal with our international friends through the Rotary network, to reach out for support, whether it's financial, whether it's direct in terms of medical equipment or other humanitarian aid, which is critically in shortage now here. Of course, we have limitations as to what we can address within Rotary, but the problems are so intense at the moment that providing humanitarian aid is even more than we can do at the moment. So we're reaching out to Rotary International. Rotary International, you may already know, has set up a disaster fund for Ukraine. We've opened special accounts with Rotary in Ukraine in US dollars, in euros, and in sterling. The documents that you may have received don't actually include the sterling bank account at the moment because it's only just been opened, but we can share that. But I think for your relevance, US dollars. And through our networks, speaking to yourselves and other clubs around Europe and other parts of the world, we're asking you to share this information through your districts, through your zones, to all of our community all around the world. With the funds that we raise, we were able to purchase the essential supplies that we need, medical supplies, food, warm clothing, whatever children's supplies that we can obtain. There are a lot of children coming this way. They're being housed as much as people can cope with here, and particularly with children, we're trying to help them get across the border. That's a very, very swift sprint through the context and what Rotary are trying to do here. There are a lot of people working really hard to help, whether it's within Rotary or not. We have some direct aid that's coming in from Germany, from Kilo, which is excellent, and we have logistics centres across the border in Poland. We have logistics centres on this side of the border, but the support is coming from all sorts of directions, coming into various different places here. It's very difficult to coordinate everything. And then, as I said earlier, the key logistics problem is getting the aid from here to the places it's needed in the capital, Kyiv, or Kharkiv, or the other places around the country, Kherson in the south, Sum in the northeast, because well, transportation is very difficult. At the moment, there are possibilities with the Ukrainian train service, Ukrzaliznytsia, that are constantly putting on trains with carriages specifically designated for transporting aid around the country. I could carry on, but I think I ought to stop because I'm sure you probably have lots of questions. So please ask.
Well, Boris, thank you very much. I'm sure we have plenty of questions for you. We're very proud of brothers like Thilo in Wiesbaden, who are literally physically making donations and participating. You've answered one of our questions about Rotary International raising funds, because obviously those of us in North America or Asia or South America are not in a position where we can physically bring anything to Ukraine. So going through Rotary International is a very viable possibility for all of us. Anyone else, if you have questions, please put them in the chat room or raise your hand. And Andreas, you can recognize people.
Yeah, I think we can do it in a casual setting as long as everybody is behaving in a good way. So please, whoever has a question, just launch it. Should be fine. Alexander Heinold, go ahead. Alexander, you actually raised your hand. So.
Yes, hi Boris, and
Hi.
welcome friends. Boris, we are working with the club, international club in Lviv, and the round tablers to get this medical supply that you need in Lviv for the hospitals, purchases in Germany and in Poland, and bring it to Lviv, which seems to work quite well. I understood that they have now something like a million value of supply they have secured, and they have raised something like 500,000 euros in the last 4 days from donors. And my question is to you, is it really possible in Ukraine to purchase those goods? Because I understood that there is a shortage in Ukraine and that you would actually be obliged to buy them abroad to bring them into Ukraine.
That's very much correct. I mean, yes, there are still some supplies in Ukraine, but the realistic, the pragmatic solution is to use the funds that we can raise to purchase supplies in the countries from which it's easiest to get them here. So the countries of Central and Eastern Europe, the Ukrainian postal courier service, Nova Pochta, has certain bases in certain countries around primarily Europe. They also have one in the US, where they're asking people who want to transport things to Ukraine to deposit them there. And that solves a logistic problem of actually transporting them. Although that won't solve everything, because they will be limited to how much they can carry. So, from countries like Poland, Germany, and all of the countries in Central and Eastern Europe, that's the source of the key supplies that we need in reality. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I would maybe have one more following on that. I assume that you are in contact with the Friends of Lviv International, because I understood that they would also try to organize on transport into Ukraine, right? I mean,
Yeah,
from
so
the-
let me, sorry, Alexander, let me, if I can interrupt. Yeah, I mean, I know the guys, the guys in Germany, I know Lviv International very well. In fact, I was in that club before we created the Passport Club. Yeah, they're doing a great job getting a lot of key supplies to Ukraine. Unfortunately, two things. One thing is they're working on their own as a club, and the supplies they're able to bring to Ukraine are then placed in the hands of the local administration, where we are trying to, as a whole, to respond to the requirements that are being articulated to us from our Rotarian friends around the country. So there is a little bit of a, slight discord there in terms of collaboration, which what we're trying to do is very much to try and work together. We know that there are a lot of people, non-Rotarian, who are doing a lot of work. And what we're trying to focus on is the needs of our friends in Rotary in the other parts of the country. So we have, as I say, we have this committee. We're trying hard to work together to make sure that we're answering the requirements and needs of our Rotarian friends in the cities and towns where they are experiencing these, huge humanitarian problems.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Lou from Rotary Toronto, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Boris, thank you very much for being with us here today. I'm wondering if there might be like a one-pager that could be sent to everyone on this call through the folks who registered for the Zoom, so that we can direct in the best and clearest fashion possible Rotarians who want to help, because Rotarians are very helpful bunch, but we need to direct them in the most profitable manner.
Yeah, there is, and certainly I think Andreas, you may have already shared with you and with Thilo a communique from our district governor, and also an information letter which outlines as briefly as possible the key people that are involved in it from our Rotary zone and also from our district, and it provides a very brief outline, which I think is probably superfluous in today's day, but it provides a very brief outline of what we've set up to do, and it provides details of the bank accounts that have been set up by our districts to receive the funds. I think that probably meets your requirements.
It
very
does.
brief. So if I could ask, it's probably easier if I could weigh on you, Andreas, potentially to distribute those two documents.
I will absolutely share it with everyone in the room who is interested. I put my contact in there too. And Mary Lou, thank you. I know you have a very robust foundation in Toronto. I had the pleasure of meeting your executive director, Valerie Clark, some years ago. So anyway.
Well, and also in Canada, we have the largest expat Ukrainian community in the entire world. And many of those people are here in Toronto.
Yeah, I know quite a few. I tried to put my contact details into the chat earlier on. I don't know if they stayed there, but if not, again, Andreas, when you distribute those documents, if you could share my contact details, I'm on call 24 hours a day if anybody has any questions, and happy to take your calls. We have a member in, I think this is important just to note for you as well. We have a member of our club who is based in New Jersey, and he is a vice president of the Ukrainian World Congress, who we are also going to be reaching out to request that they share what we're doing through Rotary, through the Ukrainian, global Ukrainian community, We have Rotarians who are Ukrainians in all various countries around the world. And we have some good friends in the US, in Australia. As you know, John Huko is actually Ukrainian, our General Secretary of Rotary International. We're actually working with his wife on a very specific project in one of our Lviv clubs as well. So we have a strong network through the Ukrainian community, and we're reaching out to the Ukrainian World Congress to share what we're doing through their network and connects Rotarians with Ukrainians all around the world too.
Oh, very good. Julia Jacobelli, you wanted to say something? You've been online. Julia, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, Gerard. No, I am listening. Very interesting.
Okay. All right. Andreas, do you have anyone else there?
Yeah, Helen, go ahead.
Helen Reisler. Yeah,
Raise
go
your
ahead.
hand for a while. Go ahead. Helen, you're on mute.
District Governor George McGinnis from District 7230, which encompasses the New York tri-state area and Bermuda, told me to announce that the district is ready to help in collecting anything that is needed. I also was wondering, is there any way at all that we could possibly get realistic information to the people of Russia? They are not happy with this war, but they are being brainwashed. Can we get visuals to them? Can we get realistic information to them? We have so many internet geniuses. In some way, I hope we can do this. I think it would help.
Thank you very much. Thank you for, again, a message back to your district governor for that support. In terms of reaching out to Russia, the Rotary organization does exist in Russia.
I know that.
We have, from here, we have addressed the Rotarians in the Rotary organization in Russia, requesting that they protest. We haven't had a response from them. You will have seen some coverage of demonstrations in Russia, even horrific scenes like children placing flowers who are then arrested, and which is quite shocking. The other point, maybe this is a little bit cynical, but it's been voiced with a friend of mine who researches social media and everything that's going on in Russia to minute details. And his analysis is that apart from one or two main cities, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Ekaterinburg, where there is some level of intelligent being, the rest of Russia, probably 65–70% of Russia support Putin. It's very, very difficult to conceive how we can influence the Russian population to get out and stop this. I think, I agree that we should be trying to do something, but I think focusing any effort in that direction will potentially distract us from what we can really do realistically and constructively. So as I say, we have tried to reach out through Rotary in Russia, but we've had absolutely zero response.
Boris, how are communications in Ukraine? Are people from the West able to communicate with people in the eastern part of the country?
I'm receiving calls 24 hours a day from people from Rotarians and friends all over Ukraine, with practical requests, direct requests, requests for assistance to move families to this part of the country and maybe across the border. People are receiving children here in Lviv We housed 20 children this morning in a church. And we are meeting twice a day with our emergency committee, which consists of Rotarians from the whole country, online on Zoom. With occasional connection problems, but we are able to communicate.
One of our Rotarians from Nuremberg, Stefan Kuchenmeister, asked the question, brought up the issue of maybe we could, contact Rotary International Evanston. But since there is already a fund you've mentioned that Rotary International has started, and since Helen Reisler informed us that our district governor here in New York is involved, so I think we will contact our other clubs. This is just my thought. I'm asking you for your opinion. Do you think it's best for Rotarians here in the United States to work through Rotary International and their district governors?
I think it's your discretion. It might be useful to reach out to Rotary head office, maybe I called it wrong, in Chicago, and ask for their advice. Rotary, you probably know a lot better than me how Rotary disaster funds work. Obviously, the last one was at the outset of coronavirus. And that's something that's organized internally within Rotary International. And so I don't know exactly how that would work. The direct way of helping financially would be to, if you're able to make contributions to the accounts that have been specially set up by our district, which has been approved by Rotary International, that would provide the most direct route to giving us the finances to be able to purchase the supplies and aid that we need.
And that's District 2232, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Gerard, can we go to Oksana Tillman, please?
Absolutely.
Oksana.
Yes, hello all together. Slava Ukraini from
Hello,
Munich.
Slava.
I'm Oksana from Munich, Rotary Club Munich International. I have been living in Ukraine for 20 years and get a scholarship from Rotary in 2000, moved to Germany and got a job later on in Munich. That's my way to Munich and later to Rotaract and Rotary now. I volunteered for helping Ukraine in this situation, in this difficult situation. And we are now starting to organize the help from our district on the district level, and decided to put the efforts from local clubs together, the funds together, to do more, to move more, and collecting all their ideas, all their efforts from the clubs to give it further and to help as quickly as possible. What is at the moment happening in Munich? In Munich, there live so many Ukrainians, and the Ukrainian community is very, very strong. And I think it was the first place here where, from the very first day, people came together, Ukrainians, but all other nations, and almost every day, 1, 2, or 3 big transporters go to Ukrainian border and later on to Lviv and bring medicine, bring protective things to Ukraine. We have a list which will be which is updated every day, what is needed. And we use that channel from the Ukrainian community, Ukrainian church around Schönstrasse in Munich, and see that and hope that our help is coming on. We get lists from Lviv, from hospitals, what is needed, and as I understand, and you, Borys, confirmed that medicine and medical things are now so needed. The strong thing what we have is our network, Rotary network we would like to use now with our connections to pharmacy, because it's one thing you go to the apotheker, how to say, to the chemist. Pharmacy, exactly, to the pharmacy and pay the normal price, or you cooperate with Rotarians from their pharma network and buy things at other prices. As I understand you, Boris, it is better to bring medicine to Ukraine as to donate money to Ukraine, which then goes back to Poland or neighbor countries to buy medicine again there. So we will lose time if we go that way, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, everything you say is absolutely correct. In terms of medical supplies, if you have lists, then please share them. You can email them to me or send them to me by WhatsApp or any other channel that's most convenient. The kind of medical supplies that are critically needed in the zones where the attacks are the most serious are obviously medical supplies which are needed to help people who are wounded, which are different to just general analgesic type of bandages and that sort of thing. So the things that are needed by people who are being injured by these attacks is the kind of medical supplies that are needed. I don't have a medical background. I can't tell you exactly what that is, but I can. If you have a list, we have Rotarian doctors who are organising one particular central point in Lviv for all medicines and medical supplies. They're young guys, excellent young doctors who are working all around the clock to collect things and to distribute them where they're needed. So please reach out. And also, I've got some very good friends in the Ukrainian diaspora community in Munich. I don't know if you know them or you're familiar with the Ukrainians who have been living in Munich all their lives, and not the ones that have come recently, but the ones who are kind of generic inhabitants of Munich. Some very good friends who live there. So if you know them, then pass on my regards to them, and we really appreciate the support. And the concept of pooling resources and working together is incredibly important. We can do so much more.
Thank you. Dr. George, you had a question, right?
Thank you, Boris, for your insight into these issues. My question is really concerning the humanitarian challenges by those refugees fleeing Ukraine. For us, I know that from information we've gathered, an estimated 6,000, actually 8,000 Nigerians live and reside in Ukraine. Out of those, 5,000 are students studying engineering and medicine. And some of them have encountered very difficult challenges, working as long as almost a day to cross over to Poland and Romania, etc. So, but my issue, isn't it something that the United Nations Security Council can do to help stop these killings, and instead of us wasting time and people are dying and so on? What do you think?
Well, I can give you my view on that. I do have a background in international relations, but I'm sure there are probably people that know this a lot better than I do. The United Nations has a responsibility, or the nations that form the United Nations have a collective responsibility to protect the international order just trying to select my words carefully. It has also the power to collect and send peacekeeping troops. But I mean, we're not in a peacekeeping environment at the moment, so peacekeeping is not a viable option. The Ukrainian community in the United Kingdom, which is where I come from and I know very well, is running a fundraising campaign which is doing an amazing job, and they've raised approximately £1.5 million, probably a lot more now, pounds, which they are then sharing with several major charities, Caritas, the Red Cross, and a couple of others who are working with the UN to use those funds to purchase and distribute the key supplies that are required to deal with this humanitarian problem. But in terms of, I think the kind of things you're saying, whether the Security Council, that's a completely different role. And, I think that the international the structure of international organizations is doing everything that it possibly can within the framework of that structure. And we can only reach out and use what resources they can provide within the context of what they're able to do. And from my perspective, and from what I'm seeing, what I'm able to follow, I think that structure is being used to its absolute maximum, and it's pushing the boundaries of the rules of the international community to its absolute limit to help Ukraine as much as it possibly can. I don't know if I've answered your question, George, but well, as much as I possibly can.
Thank you. I think
Maksym, Andreas, is Maksym back on with us? Maksym?
Yeah, I think he wants to say something. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I don't know if it is the possibility of Rotary, but I read the question. So what can we like? Yes, or you do to stop this? One question of the this humanitarian horror, I might say. These are rockets. Yeah, so the sky. So maybe if some of you or your communities can, I don't know, push or ask the authorities to close the sky, yeah, right? Because our army is strong, and our army can fight with tanks or other Russian army. But the main question of humanitarian this disaster are rockets which are falling down to Kharkiv, Kyiv, Kherson, and other cities because civilians are dying. This is, I think, this can work somehow.
Can I add, Maksym? Hi. Can I add from my perspective? There are Rotary is a non-political organization and can be involved from a humanitarian perspective. We can't provide military supplies. Maybe, unfortunately, maybe that's not the right word, but that's not part of our service charter. But what we can do in our communities, which I completely agree with Maksym about, which is outside effectively the remit of Rotary, is to try to encourage people to put pressure on administration, government, to close the skies over Ukraine. Is critically important at the moment. There are petitions out there which are lobbying for exactly this. And I know very well that it's on the agenda of the major powers that are supporting Ukraine. It's not happened yet, but it really is absolutely critically needed to at least reduce the damage and the disaster that's being created by Russia.
Thank you.
Andreas, perhaps we might want to, we put together from the club, we have a clip. A couple of nights ago, there was a very stirring event at the Metropolitan Opera House in Lincoln Center here in New York City. It's very, very brief. Can we play that very quickly, Andreas, at this point?
Yeah.
This was the entire ensemble, the entire cast.
Show of solidarity for Ukraine here in the US and all over the world. And a powerful moment here in New York City, opening night at the Met Opera, and they chose to begin with the Ukrainian national anthem.
Can't hear the sound. You would have to allow the sound to be connected.
One of the performers center stage, his hand over his heart, is 24-year-old baritone Vlad Boyarsky. Vlad is from Ukraine. His family is still there. They asked Vlad to help teach them the words. The Met sang tonight, "We stand in solidarity with Ukraine and dedicate the rest of our season to their courage." That young baritone from Ukraine saying this tribute was maybe the most emotional moment of my life.
We still can't hear the sound.
Yeah, we do. Obviously, unfortunately, we have a problem with Zoom. We have a problem with the sound, but I think you can see they were literally the entire Metropolitan Opera has been closed because of COVID for quite some time, and there was not an empty seat, and the entire audience stood on its feet to the playing in respect and honor of Ukraine, to the Ukrainian national anthem. It was a very, very stirring event. To be there to see it, unfortunately, we don't have the sound as we wished. All right, we've come to pretty much the closing of our Zoom session. Is there anyone who has any other question or statement? Alexander, are you in Warsaw right now?
I'm in Warsaw, yes. And I would have one question to Borys. Borys, I'm afraid about orphans, disabled people, disabled children, and old people without relatives. Here in Poland, we of course see all the time the reporting about the situation at the border, that the people have to leave their cars because they're out of fuel. It takes 24, 48, 60 hours for them. They walk 20, 30 kilometers in the night with children. But this is only possible for the ones that have parents or somebody accompanying them. Is there any action that would allow the weakest ones, orphanage, disabled, and old people that are alone to be brought across the border? Is there some action like this in Ukraine we could support?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea at the moment, as far as I'm aware, where there are orphans and disabled children and old people. They're being housed here in Lviv and in the surrounding areas as much as possible, partly because, as you quite rightly say, the queues, I mean, the cars are being left mainly not because of fuel, but because, 40, 50 kilometers of queues in cars, people are just getting out of their cars and walking. Because that's a quicker way of getting to the border. Unfortunately, with temperatures below zero, women with small children walking 20, 30 kilometers is creating a huge problem. One of my club members took some children back to her mother lives in Poland, and she came straight back to the border. And she was phoning me on an hourly basis, just crying, trying to help them on the border. I think that's got easier now. But I'm not aware of any movements to move children, orphans, disabled children, elderly people from Lviv to the border and across the border. But I'll certainly look into that. I have one of my close friends she's not in Rotary, and she's looking after more the situation, particularly for children and old people. I'll speak to her and see whether she's aware that in particular, whether it's a question of putting on some transport and just getting people out and across the border. We need to obviously have somewhere to receive them across the border, but I'm sure we can coordinate that if that's a possibility.
Because it would be really great. Up to now, I got this information that such action would start in Ukraine. I couldn't verify it and ticked it off as fails. But maybe if you could find out if there is a way that these children would be evacuated, then I think it would be really worthwhile to check on the other receiving sites like Poland and Germany, how potentially these minors without adults could be put into institutions and taken care of instead of, worst case, being left alone in places where fighting is taking place and everybody's on its own.
Yeah, I mean, I know the answer I'll get is that if there is somewhere to receive them, we'll arrange the transport.
Okay, so maybe the Rotarians that are on here, particularly the German ones, because I'm not sure how good capacity is in Poland, and Poland will be the first stop to be flooded with the Ukrainians. So if the Rotarians from Germany maybe could pick this impulse up and see if there is any way that particular, I would say, disabled and orphans could be hosted in Germany, where disabled must be the most difficult group. That's it. Thanks from my side, Boris, for this.
If I can just add a practical point, if we can arrange transport here, if we can get coaches of children and or whoever is most needed from here to go to the border and cross the border, it's very difficult to have transport from the other side of the border coming into Ukraine, because transport companies, haulage companies, and logistic companies are being stopped from actually driving into Ukraine for insurance purposes. So, but anyway, look, these are practical questions. We're Rotarians. We know how to resolve problems. So, if there's a way to do something, we'll do it. I've just dropped my email address and my phone number again in the chat. If anybody's, as I say, do reach out.
And
Alexander, dziękuję bardzo.
Once again, whatever information you may need, including the one-pager from Boris, I will send it to any and all of you that are attending here. So please just reach out to me. Gerard?
Are there other people who have questions, comments? Any other participants?
Yes, I do.
I raised my hand earlier. Can you come back to me, please? Thank you.
My question has to do with directly sending money to Boris and his organization. Should we reach out to you, Boris, by email, and you can then direct us where to send money?
And Andreas will distribute the two documents which contain all the bank details for the US dollar account and for the euro account that have been set up. As I said earlier, I think we have a sterling account. I don't see anybody here from the UK, so I think for now that's probably enough. But I will share the pound sterling account details with Andreas as well, in case anybody has the ability to make donations in pound sterling.
Okay, thank you very much for what you're doing.
Thank you, Fred Lee. Thank you, Fred Lee. Yeah, John German.
Yes, thank you. Oh, the group that I set up to get people out of Afghanistan, which got dozens of people out of Afghanistan, has pivoted, to doing the same, for Ukraine. We started, because of specific requests, for nationals of other countries, not Ukraine, who were having trouble getting out of Ukraine, and then we were asked to, broaden that to include doing that for Ukrainians also. I can, I put something in the chat about that, including my email address, if anybody wants to follow up on that. And if anybody wants to stay on this call after the official meeting is over, if we will be allowed to do that, I would be happy to explain anything more that anybody wants to know about it. I noticed several specific comments and questions in the chat as it was going by about this question. So it's a specific issue, and I don't want to detract from the presence, particularly of Borys and Maksym, who have information about things that may be of broader interest to others. But anybody who wants to stay on the call, I'd be happy to.
I just wanted to say also that during the 9/11 terror attack here in New York City, I was the president of the New York Rotary Club at that time, so I was very involved in coordinating things like this. And Germany offered to take the children who had lost parents. That will not be hard to get the countries to take them. It's just the transportation we need.
I'll follow up on that. Definitely follow up on that.
Okay. Can we have Cristiano ask his question? He had his hand up just about the entire meeting. Cristiano.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm here.
Vai pure. Ti
Thank you.
Ciao.
Borys, thank you for sharing with us this. I know this is a fluid situation. Rotary International and your district is still trying to coordinate all the efforts. My question is, let's assume, and as you know, I'm from Rotary Club of Weston in South Florida. We have a large community of Ukrainian and also Belarus and other people that wants materially help. I mean, let's assume that we can collect supplies and freight them to a country bordering Ukraine. Are there any means to ship this supply, I mean, grounded shipping, to your club or any other club inside Ukraine?
The issue of getting supplies from the US is difficult because of the cost. I spoke to my colleague in New Jersey last night, and he was explaining to me that there's an awful lot of people who want to and companies that want to donate supplies, but they were being faced with a bill of $250,000 to fly those supplies to here, to nearby Ukraine, to Poland. So it's a challenge. I mean, if there are means of getting supplies here, then they can. Well, when I say here, I mean to the nearest possible points near to Ukraine, to get them from there to Lviv across the border. But I think the logistical problem of transportation from the US to say Poland is going to be incredibly costly, and a lot of those costs can be put to better use by putting them into an account where we can use them to buy the supplies more locally in Central and Eastern Europe, rather than spending the money on very expensive transportation.
Okay. What about from other countries in Europe?
Well, from other countries in Europe, I mean, look, in normal circumstances, it takes a truck 2 days to drive from Portugal to Ukraine. That's the furthest point away from Ukraine within Europe. So pretty much anywhere in Europe, within a couple of days, it's attainable, and they can reach the collection points on the other side of the border from Ukraine, and then we have logistics solutions that are bringing supplies in from those collection points, 24 hours a day.
Okay, can you please share with us where are these collection points?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks.
Peter Schulz, last question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Wunderbar. Thanks a lot for having me. My question is, a couple of minutes ago, in fact, I read that a humanitarian corridor was agreed upon. Borys, can you confirm that you believe it will hold?
Look, we've been asking for, and there have been reports of green corridors being available. I had somebody flew from the UK to Poland, bought the van, drove to Lviv we met him. We filled the van full of medical supplies. He went to a city not far from Lviv called Ternopil, where he joined a humanitarian convoy and drove to a city not too far from Kyiv. He dropped off the medical supplies. He picked up his wife who lives in Kyiv and her mother, and he's now driving her back to Lviv. That was then. Today, where the people are talking about trying to guarantee humanitarian corridors, volunteer aid vehicles, white flagged. We just hope that that will be allowed. But you know, the Russians are bombing cities. They're bombing civilians. They're bombing the residential areas. They're killing, you know, civilians, women, children. You've seen the reports. I don't need to go through all that. It's too emotional to even contemplate. Whether we can rely on these people not to attack volunteer columns that are transporting humanitarian aid, there's no guarantee. So at the moment, we're hoping that we can. That's all I can say, really.
Gerard?
We're using all of the means we possibly can at our disposal today, whether it's military trucks, whether it's trains which are still running between this side of Ukraine and the central and eastern parts of Ukraine, while it's possible.
All right, Borys, Maksym, dziękuję. We've been honored to have you here. You have given us a message. You have given us information about how we as Rotarians can help, and we will follow up on this immediately, and hopefully can provide the assistance that some people need. Thank you again for being with us. Makes us very proud today to be Rotarians. We can see Rotarians from all over the world have given this a priority that it needs. We are with you. Today, we are all Ukrainians. God be with you. God bless you. God bless Ukraine. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Дякуємо. Thank you.